Thank you very much for joining us in studio as we continue our series of interviews with local candidates who will be on the ballot in early November for the municipal elections. I'm joined today by Mary Kay Feeney. She's one of the two candidates for the District 3 seat on the Framingham City Council. Mary Kay, thanks for joining us in studio today. We appreciate it.
Oh, I love coming to Access Framingham, and thank you for all that you do. So this is great.
I wanted to start today by getting just a little bit of your background. We were talking off camera. You wear a lot of hats within the community, but for people who may not be aware, just give us a brief background of the things that you do around the community.
Oh, yes, a lot of hats, so we'll make it brief. But so I'm Mary Kay Feeney. I was born and brought up here in Framingham, and a lot of people know me as the writer of The Hammer. I write a weekly newsletter about Framingham politics. I am active. I was on the Strategic Initiatives and Financial Oversight Committee. I'm a member of Framingham Force, the Elks, and and of course my big thing is Friends of Framingham Trails. I'm a co-founder. I'm currently the chair. We're doing a lot of great work about bringing advocacy about our trails. We put on the New Year's Eve celebration, which is becoming more and more popular, which is so wonderful, and just really. My hope and dream is that Framingham becomes the hub of trails in Metro West, and that we'll be able to go north and south on a trail, which would be incredible. So those are some of the things that I'm active in.
With a brief overview of your background in mind, how do you think all of those experiences together could translate to the City Council?
That's a great question. First off, I love Framingham, right? I love District 3, I love Framingham, and it's that passion that I want to bring to the council. And I have a very unique background of combination of grassroots organizing, policy expertise, and actual community leadership. And I've worked with pretty much everybody on the council, and I work with a variety of people in Framingham, and I think that that's the energy that is really needed on the council.
Right. Now, if folks recall, this is the same seat that you ran for back in 2021, very tight election, eventually won by Adam Steiner, who is stepping down from this position. Bit of a two-pronged question here. Mm-hmm. When did you decide that you wanted to put your hat back in the ring for this District 3 seat? And looking back to 2021, what are some of the lessons or takeaways that you've had leading up to now?
Oh, the lessons of, so, after that election, you have a choice. Either you can step out and just walk away, because that was a really hard election, and I never expected to end up in court to discuss ballots. You have two choices. You walk away, or you continue going and figuring out how you can continue to serve this community. And that's the decision I made, and that's when the Hammer came along, and doing more with Friends of Framingham Trails. We created it shortly afterwards. My passion means that I want to serve this community, and I kept going. And so when about in the beginning of the year, people were encouraging me to run again, not knowing what Councillor Steiner's decision was going to be, but some people had an idea. And once he announced, that really made the decision for me that when he was not running again, I thought this was a time to try again.
Now leading into this municipal election in early November, if you are elected to the City Council, what would be some of your top priorities that you'd look to be enacting?
Oh, that's a great question. I have so many, but my top ones are about economic development. I am concerned that our growth has been stagnant, for the last 2 years. We need economic development, and we need businesses to move in and to invest in our community, so then we can invest in the great things that our kids need and that our seniors need, and really build a community that's focused on today and on the future. The other thing is accountability. The council needs to take a step back and remember that they represent the people of Framingham, and that they must be accountable to themselves and to their voters, and also keep the mayor accountable. And that means being transparent and communicating and putting the budget online, so that we're bringing people into the conversation, and we're bringing them and we're meeting them where they are. That's huge, and it's very important. And issues about the environment as well. Framingham has had some really good wins in the last couple of years with the geothermal, the composting, which I just want to give a shout out to Councillor Leora Malik, Diana Porter, Mike Croce for really putting that program together and getting us to where we're at. We need to support them more and to really expand that program. And then, of course, the community aggregation. These are 3 great wins. But what we're not doing is some of the basics, like putting solar on buildings and expanding our EV charging stations and looking after our lakes and our other blue spaces to make sure that they're clean and that our kids have clean water.
Right. You mentioned accountability within
Yes.
City Hall. I did want to ask you, obviously considering the relationship that the City Council has with obviously the mayor's office, the school committee, other facets of the municipal government, I was curious to hear what you had to think about. What do you think is going right within the Memorial Building in terms of those connections, how the municipal government works, and some things that you think might have to change?
Well, Framingham is we're a city that still thinks it's a town, right? And Framingham is changing, and we've always traditionally been reactive and not proactive. And that's what's got to change for Framingham, is that the energy and ideas and excitement that our neighbors have and are working on need to be harnessed and brought into our city government. And that's one of the reasons why I want to be a councilor. I work with so many people, and I want to be able to bring the resources of being a councilor to them and to elevate what they're doing and to see how city government can be more involved to make their dreams a reality. And that's by being proactive. And we have to understand that we are a city, and certain things come with being a city, and the ability to be flexible and to be innovative. We have to think more broadly and out of the box. What's going well? You know, we have a lot of projects on the go that are incomplete. You know, the community center, Mary Dennison is almost there. And I actually think Mary Dennison is the greatest accomplishment in the last couple of years, is just cleaning that up and making that a park. For too long, that was a disaster, and now that we're trying to correct that, which is good. You know, and so we're looking at all these things, they need to be complete. And that's part of the accountability, is asking the questions, figuring out why things aren't getting done, and pushing and advocating for completion.
And that kind of falls into another question I wanted to ask. Over the last couple of years following Framingham politics, a word that you always see pop up, whether it's an elected official or a resident, you name it, is transparency. What does that transparency within the municipal government mean to you?
Yes, I always joke that transparency is the center square on the bingo card, right? Transparency means putting the budget online, and not just a spreadsheet, but actually so that people can search what's going on. When I worked for Governor Patrick back 15 years ago, one of the things that I worked on was Open Checkbook, which put the entire state budget online, and you could look through anything and find out how much, you know, HHS spent on flowers, or, you know, the contracts. That's what we need. There was an ordinance passed a couple of years ago that has never been fully enacted here in Framingham, and one of them is putting the marijuana licenses online so that we know who's behind those companies. It's about putting conflict of interest forms online so that people know who knows who and what's going on. It's about, you know, some meetings with the council, not all the background material makes it in. That's the sort of transparency that we're looking for. And I think that is so critical and so important.
You'll be on the ballot in District 3 against Ken Weiss for this city council position.
Yes.
Over the last couple of weeks, have you been able to identify any topics that you actually might agree with Ken Weiss on, and then some other topics, on the other hand, that you might disagree with him on?
Yeah, so Ken and I met about a month and a half ago, and we had a great conversation. And it was mostly about the environment and Knobscot. And the thing is, Ken and I agree pretty much on everything. You know, he's a big environmental activist, and I admire that. And but when we talked about what Framingham needs to be done, we're on the same page. You know, the thing about the environment, you know, the council declared a number of years ago that climate change is an emergency, with the target goal of 2050 to be carbon neutral. Now, I know that that's a number that a lot of other communities use. But I look at, you know, we've been blessed. I have a new nephew. His name is Oliver. He's 6 months old. We're obsessed. But I look at the future that Oliver is going to have, and I wonder, you know, how much of his future are we taking for the comforts of today? And Ken and I were talking about that a lot. And the decisions that we're making, I think Framingham should be more ambitious with becoming carbon neutral. And that is what I had explained before about, you know, we need to plant more trees. And that sounds kind of basic to some people, but we have serious heat islands here in Framingham, in some of our poorest neighborhoods, who their temperature on their streets are much higher than what is on mine. but we need to plant more trees. We need to do more with EVs. We need to do more with expanding geothermal, our lakes, our rivers. Because I think of kids like Oliver, who in 2050 will be 25 years old, and I'll be 67. What sort of world are we leaving them?
Right. As we sit here now in the studio, we're about 2 months away from Election Day in Framingham.
Mm-hmm.
As we get closer to that, and as people prepare to go to the polls, send in their ballots, what would be one thing you would want them to think about when they see this race in District 3?
I think the number one thing they have to think about is a choice, whether they want to stay the same as acting like a town, or we're going to stop kicking the can down the street and be more intentional with what we do. And that's why I want to go to the council. This is about strategic planning, so that when we're doing things that we need to do about housing, and we're doing it strategically, where the community is bought in and we're all part of that plan, so that things like Knobscot doesn't happen again. It's about having a counselor who's with you every step of the way regarding what's going on in your neighborhood. I'm really going to communicate. We're going to have regular office hours. I'm going to have a newsletter. People will have my telephone number. I am one of you, and I am there to be on the council to support what we're doing in District 3 and throughout the entire city. I'm really excited about rolling up my sleeves and getting to work and working with everyone to create a community that we love today and in the future. Just thinking about Oliver.
Right. And again, folks, that's Mary Kate Feeney. She will be on the ballot in District 3 for the City Council seat in early November. Until then, Mary Kate, we appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you. So great.
Thank you very much for joining us in studio. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick, and I'm joined today by Ken Weiss. He is one of the 2 candidates running for the City Council seat in District 3. Ken, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Ken will be on the ballot in November, running up against Mary Kate Feeney. Ken, for people who may not be aware, I wanted to start today by learning more about your background and how you got involved in this District 3 race.
Right, so I've always been interested in politics and Framingham politics as well. I've served as city town meeting member way back when, and proposed some legislation, environmental legislation. So, and I was really happy with Adam Steiner. He's a great counselor. But when I heard that he's retiring, I thought this would be a great opportunity to also, just get involved, try to make the Framingham better.
You know, even to this day, years after the transition from Framingham being a town to a city, you still hear people all the time bring up the fact that they were town meeting members and they were involved with that form of government. With that background in mind, how do you think that could translate to you being on the City Council if you do eventually win in November?
You mean, so maybe you could clarify the question. Is it more like...
Sure, yeah. So given your background, given your experience, especially in working within the town meeting structure, if you are to win, how do you think that could inform your work on the City Council?
Yeah, I think town meeting was very different from City Council.
Right.
You know, I watched the videos and everything. And town meeting was very slow. It only happened once a year, very bureaucratic. But it was also an amazing exercise of democracy. I remember those days I would get 10 signatures and I could propose a new law, and then town meeting would vote on it. And that was just an amazing, amazing experience that got me really involved in politics. I think City Council is very different. It's more efficient in the way that they're always meeting and they can always make decisions. But I think, and we do have public participation, but I think it's a bit harder to get change as a citizen, and you really have to be involved and be a city councilor to do that.
And if you do eventually win, how would you see yourself making those changes with this District 3 seat? Yeah,
so I think I'm going to change everything on day one, and that's really what I plan on doing. Everything changes. No, but this is jokes aside. The reality is government is still a slow body, and I have some ideas, lots of environmental ideas, lots of equitable housing ideas, and I want to try and promote these ideas. I want to try and move them forward, see where the process is stuck, try to identify those points and really work there. So it's kind of smoothing the factory and helping the factory roll.
Right. We were mentioning off camera a few days ago before, while planning this conversation out, you mentioned that this is generally pretty new to you. This is your first campaign. What are some of the things that you've learned while running for the seat thus far?
I think there aren't that many opportunities to kind of engage with your district. I think it's really about like getting to know people on a personal level. It's a small district. It's knocking on doors and just making yourself known. I think that's all I got.
Sure.
Right now.
Now, you mentioned a couple of some of your general priorities, environment being one of them. If you are to win this seat in District 3, what are some of the specific top priorities that you would hope to enact within Framingham?
Yeah, okay, so I can talk a bit about my environmental background. So I'm really, I've always wanted to promote clean energy and also move us away from fossil fuels. And in 2014, I proposed a resolution to divest the town of Framingham from fossil fuels, and that passed, and that got me on this road. Personally, with my family, we have 3 EVs. I'm just getting more heat pumps installed, and I have solar panels. And I think on the environmental realm in Framingham, I want to try and promote more solar panels on top of our municipal buildings. I want to make sure, and this is a shout out to Energize Framingham, Amy Puelka. They're asking that we talk to our city councilors and try to get the specialized net zero building code through this fall before the election. It's really important. This will make all our new houses ready for solar and heat pumps, and this is really the direction that we have to move as quickly as possible because time is running out. It's already running out, and we have to act very, very swiftly on climate change.
Any other major priorities outside of environmental causes that you'll be looking to champion?
Of course. Actually, my number one priority for running is really to limit the development in our district. We are blessed with a beautiful district. We've got West Framingham, the fields, the farms, Callahan State Park, and there was a big tragedy that happened during town meeting where we lost the golf course, and that could have been owned by us, and we could have opened that space up for everybody. And I think those open spaces are under risk from developers trying to develop these regions and just put more apartments and more apartments. And this is not what we want in our district. I will absolutely try to slow down as much as I can those types of developments, including the ones in Knobscott. This is my number one priority. But I'm not opposed to apartment buildings. I'm not opposed to development. It just has to happen closer to the train station. It just has to happen where it makes sense, where people can commute easily from Boston into Framingham, from Framingham into Boston, and live close to live close and have all the restaurants and revitalize downtown Framingham. So I will definitely try to work on that, and I will try to work on equitable housing as well. There's another challenge is I don't think my kids can afford to live in Framingham, and we need to find more solutions where we have apartments that our kids can buy, not only rent from corporations, that they can own these apartments, and it has to be on a sliding scale that can match all our different income levels. So I'm going to work for those types of things, taking legislation from Cambridge, trying to bring it over to Framingham. So I have big plans. Hopefully I can do those.
You'll be on the ballot in District 3 against Mary Kate Feeney. In this process, Ken, have you discovered any topics that you're actually aligned with Mary Kate on? And then are there any topics where you see yourself differing?
I think so first I want to say that Mary Kate Feeney is a great candidate. And if she wins, I'll be happy to have her as a city councilor as well. She writes for the Hammer. She's very involved with the trails and everything, so really, really excellent candidate. So I would like to put that out there first. I think one major difference is my campaign. I'm not taking any funding, So this sort of grassroots campaign, and it really goes to show that I don't want to get any influence from the outside and really do what's right for my district.
Right.
And so I would say that's probably a big differentiator. But on the environmental side, I think we both agree on many things.
Right. Now, again, with the experience of town meeting in mind, of course, the city council itself plays a big role in tandem with other leaders at City Hall. In your opinion, what are things that you think that have gone well at City Hall in relation to the city council, and what are some things that you think should change in terms of, how the city council acts in the process of that?
I'm having a hard time answering that specific question.
Sure.
I think, the city council is more efficient. I don't want to critique too much our current city council because I don't want to get into bad shape with any of my future councilors that I plan on working with. I think I would say maybe the city council pushes back too much on different efforts, and I think we have to have more of an open mind towards environmental causes. A lot of times maybe there are decisions that are strictly financial, trying to reduce the cost to taxpayers. But we have to also sometimes look at it more like environmental, the global problem that this world is facing, and realize that some of our money has to go to these environmental causes, and we have to balance that with also our citizens.
Right. One of the major words that I've seen thrown around local politics, whether it's from the mayor's office or the city council, school committee, citizens themselves, you name it, is transparency. What is your take on how it has been locally, the state of transparency within the municipal government, and what does that word mean to you, and how would you enact transparency within the city council if you, again, eventually do win in November?
Yeah, transparency is very important, and I can talk about how I plan on doing this. I'm very interested in working with my constituents as closely as possible. I actually, in my private life, I'm a tech. I work in tech, and I want to see if I can use technology to help increase transparency and also increase the voice of my constituents. There are platforms where constituents can interact directly with their elected officials, even influencing how they vote for certain things. So I want to experiment with those types of technologies, maybe sort of crowdsourcing some of the voting. I think the city government is on TV, and people get to see what people are doing, what the city councilors are doing. I think that's great. And there are probably technological solutions to make all this information easier for the public to see, and also digest it through artificial intelligence, and creating summaries of what's actually happening. And so I'm interested in those types of projects. Not saying that I'm necessarily going to do them, but those are things that I do feel comfortable with.
Some interest in the very least.
Yeah.
When people go to the polls in District 3, Ken, in a matter of months, what would be one thing you would want them to think about when they see this race for city councilor?
So I think my dedication to the environment and my dedication to not constructing monster apartments for corporations in our district. I want to preserve our beautiful landscape. I want to be able to walk and run around Callahan State Park without worrying about another housing development happening there. And again, I want to support building. Apartment buildings are the best, environmentally best option for people, and we should be building them, yes, absolutely, in the downtown area, revitalizing this place. The downtown area should become a beautiful, with cafes and people sitting outside in the sun. And as our runners run through the marathon, just see a bunch of people having a good time in this beautiful city of Framingham.
Again, folks, that's Ken Weiss. He is in the running for the District 3 seat on the City Council. Election, again, will be happening in early November. Until then, Ken, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.